our fourth and final day of our Fall into Focus webinar series. My name is Rachael Moss. I am an executive function coach, and I am also an instructional support specialist here with Educational Connections. I am also a honors and AP teacher. I taught at the university level, I taught at the high school level, and at the high school level, I taught all honors and AP lit classes. I taught honors writing classes, I taught AP writing classes, the class that's now called AP Seminar, and I am joined today by Katherine McWilliams Kline. Katherine, would you please introduce yourself to everybody?
Thanks, Rachel. My name is Katherine McWilliams Kline. I've been a science teacher for a little over a decade. You name it, I've taught it. Physics, chemistry, biology, physical science,
Wow.
ecology, anatomy and physiology, medical terminology. The list goes on. I work with middle schoolers, high schoolers, and college students, executive function and content tutoring.
Okay, so I think what you can see is that today we've got somebody who is handling the STEM side and somebody who is handling the humanities side. So whatever kinds of questions we have, and I've seen people say, okay, 11th grade honors physics classes, 10th grade AP Spanish and honors history and English classes, we have got you covered. As we are talking today, if you have questions, throw those in the chat as soon as you have them. Don't wait until the end for our question and answer section. Make sure that you're getting your questions in so that we can just address them. As you have those questions, one more time, put them in the chat as you think about them. So we are going to jump right in. And we all know that honors and AP classes really benefit students, that they introduce our students to more rigorous content, and kids can, try out the basics of different majors when they're still in high school. So, Katherine, in your experience with these kind of like medical sciences careers that you are so knowledgeable about, can you give us like insight into how these honors and AP classes help our kids on career paths for like career clusters that they're interested in the future?
Of course, Rachel, our AP and honors kids, and I noticed a parent has an IB diploma kid. That student's going to be right here in this group. Those classes prepare you for the breadth of material that you'll go over, and then also the depth that you're going to be asked to analyze your different assignments in college. So by
Mhm.
starting in middle and high school, you're getting used to a routine and a workload that's going to mirror the career that you end up choosing in the end. So
Yeah.
prepare you.
Yeah, and I don't know. So I of course know about the humanities, and in schools where I've worked, um, it's pretty typical where the honors classes, which may be offered, seventh grade through even 12th grade, they're kind of a track for kids that are interested in the AP classes when they get into those upper grades 10, 11, and 12. Is it similar, like with honors classes in the sciences, where the honors classes prepare us for AP?
Yeah, I have a lot of students that will take honors and AP classes as soon as possible so that they can get more of the sciences because your classes at that point are above and beyond the required. So taking them early gives them the years left to fit them in at the end. The more exciting classes, science, um, the AP research, for example, can
Yeah.
be taken at the end.
Yeah. So this is when we talk about honors and AP classes, we're really talking about things on a continuum. No matter what class your favorite student is taking, if they are in, because we have some folks that have said, I have middle school kids that are in honors classes, that's getting them ready for those AP classes. So whether you're taking an honors or an AP class, we have to talk strategies that all kids can use. And so this is the focus of what we're doing today. We're going to talk three really powerful strategies that can help all students. We're going to talk about note taking, which is the key to unlocking test prep and really supercharging the class time. We're going to talk about analysis training. This one is getting them going in the honors classes, and it's really getting them ready for those AP tests. And we're also going to be talking sustained skills so that we can sustain our attention and retain information, throughout our time in these classes. Now, as we talk about strategies, I am going to encourage every single person right now to use our QR code. We're also going to have a link in the chat that I'm going to put in right now. And this link is going to take you to the College Board website. I am encouraging you to click on this and to find the classes that your favorite student is taking right now. If they are in an honors physics class, find that AP physics class. If they're in honors Spanish or honors French, find the AP French or Spanish section, because we're leading up to these exams at the end. And as we talk general strategies, it's going to be really beneficial for everyone here to see the specifics that are applying to the students that we are here to learn for. So we're going to be talking strategies that will apply to any subject, but you are probably going to key in on things that are really specific for your favorite learner. And this is going to help you apply what we're talking about to the curriculum that your student is working through right now. So we're going to jump right into our first strategy, which is note taking. And I know, Katherine, we talk about this all the time in our sessions with students. So would you talk to us about the value of note taking for kids in our honors and AP classes?
Absolutely. In the sciences, particularly, we always encourage students to take notes with their future selves in mind.
Mhm.
Think about those larger tests coming up, quarter test, finals, and think backwards of how do you want to be able to decipher this pile of notes at the end. So along the entire semester, we're going to be taking intentional notes with a specific system that's going to be student specific. My favorite is Cornell Notes, and Rachel, I know you're going to touch on that.
Yeah.
But whatever method or way that we organize the notes, it's going to be established early on, and it's going to be easy to pick through 2 months from then. And you can identify key vocabulary, key concepts, the practice, what weaknesses you had in the first test, so that you can better prepare for later tests at the end.
Yeah. And one of the sticking points is that a lot of times we think, oh, note taking is just something that kids do, but it's actually a learned skill. So sometimes we kind of assume, oh, they're taking notes. They're doing this, they're good. But and we have a question in the chat. I'm not, Mandy, it's like you planned this with us. I'm not familiar with Cornell Notes. Can you expand on what that is? Absolutely, friend. So a lot of times in our sessions, we um, we talk about Cornell Notes. It works for any subject whatsoever, and we may actually have a link that we can share for some more information about this. But Cornell Notes were started at Cornell University I'm not 100% clear on dates, I never am, but definitely around the 1950s. So this is a pencil and paper system for taking notes. And what you do is you divide your paper up into different quadrants. You have a section for keywords and questions. You have a section for just notes. You can take them as bulleted points. You can take them as sentences, phrases. You also have a place where you date and title the notes. And then after the learning experience, at the bottom of the notes, you write a short summary. When I work with students in sessions, I often will introduce this in a very low stakes sort of way. What I'll actually do is I'll ask the student, hey, what's your favorite zoo animal? And then we find a short educational YouTube video, about 5 minutes. We talk about the note-taking format, and there is a link in the chat, one that has 5 different note-taking strategies, and another that is a deep dive into Cornell Notes. But you can take something that's very low stakes, like a video about sharks. You can utilize the Cornell Notes note-taking system, and then you can check that against, what you've learned and what you've been able to write down. Cornell Notes are great for studying any subject. The other thing that's great for our honors and AP classes is having structured notes. Like Catherine, when you work with students, do you notice that kids often have like structured note-taking guides for their honors and AP classes?
I wish that I could say it's 100% across the board.
Yeah.
We have a lot of variety in the teachers that our students are exposed to. So
Hmm.
I have some of my favorite schools with my favorite teachers that give really great notes packets, but those
Hmm.
are rare to find. So typically students have to create their own system on
Yeah.
their by themselves. And that I also like that because it's student specific. I always
Right.
tell students like the way that your teacher remembers the information for themselves isn't necessarily the way that you're going to for yourself. So
Yeah.
reading packets, sometimes we will end up creating a new system that's specific to the student.
Yeah. I have a student where I specifically taking an honors class that this kid, he has to take notes, and he has been wanting to have something really structured. And so one of the things that we actually do is we take the PowerPoints, which his teacher does put online, and then we will organize them together. Like we kind of make a new copy, obviously, and then we take out the slides that are like pictures or something like that, and we kind of structure a note-taking apparatus from those. Like, here are key definitions from the PowerPoint. Now we make a section where he can write his notes. Kids can adapt things from what they're given in the classroom. And having a good note-taking format, you may respond to Cornell Notes, you may respond to one of the other four that are in the blog posts that we have in the chat. Any system is going to help because those student notes are a pathway to such great success. So we're going to talk about our second strategy, which is analysis training. Now, this is happening in the honors classroom because this is key in the AP classroom. Because in our AP classes, we are focusing on lots of writing-based assessments. So if you have a kid in an honors class, you may notice that they have to write mini essays at home as homework, or they may not just have matching for their vocab. They may have to write that vocab into detail-rich sentences, for example. And this is because in our assessments in these classes, we have to analyze things. So, Catherine, will you tell us a little bit about analysis in the STEM honors and AP classes?
Of course, our analysis questions are going to be typically related to experiments, but that requires a few different steps. You
Hmm.
get experiment data, you get pictures, and then you get questions based on some of those two things presented to you. Sometimes you have to know that information on from the content in the class.
Yeah,
So we actually practice breaking down the prompts under timed conditions to A, make sure that they can figure out where's the key information in the question, B, make sure that they're using the correct vocabulary, and C, making sure that they don't run out of time
yeah,
literally answering these questions because they're heavy questions. They're not ones that you can read and answer on the spot. Some of these take up to a half hour to answer accurately.
yeah. So when I taught honors literature, I knew that a lot of my students that were in my ninth grade class were going to end up taking AP Lit when they got to 12th grade. So I was structuring things with analysis training in mind because on all of the AP tests, or at least the vast majority of them, there are DBQs, document-based questions, LEQs, long essay questions. And so in the honors classes, you may see assessments where students are given a document that they have to read and then they have to write about. This is all analysis training. You're also going to notice in AP classes that when they have homework packets or when they have assessments, there are things that they have to write about. I have a student in my current sessions with Educational Connections who is in an AP Calc class. And when he started working, he was kind of freaked out because his first homework had a portion that was a written like essay portion. Are there things like that, like Catherine, like in the kind of classes that you have experience in, like where they have like essays like that, like in this calc class?
So it will still be based on experimental data, but it's
Mhm.
not the AP Chem answers, for example, it's not a sentence and it's not an essay. It's a thorough little explanation, I'd say about a paragraph after going through the experiment data. So there is kind of deeper writing involved, but
Mhm.
what takes up the time is looking through the data given to you. So
Yeah.
as intense lengthwise, but the vocabulary and the analysis to piece everything together is key for those AP Chem points.
Yeah. In this example that I shared with my student who's in the AP Calc class, he has to not only go through the calculations, but he has to actually write everything down, like an explanation of what he is doing. And the cool thing is, because I work with so many students with educational connections as an executive function coach, he was kind of freaking out and he's like, "Oh my God, I mean, why do I have to do this? When am I going to do this?" And I said, "Well, actually, my friend, I have a student who is in college in a space program, and this is how all of her tests are organized in math classes, where you are not only doing the math, you are also writing about the math." So, for any of our students who are interested in whatever the career path is, one of the great things about the analysis training for honors in AP is that it absolutely has application to the rest of their experience in college. So we're talking here about the analysis that kids need to do in honors and AP. They need to be able to not only recall information like on multiple choice, but they need to write about it. So we have this little kind of like infographic here, and this is what we're calling DBQs, FRQs, and LEQs by the numbers. So whether you're in honors or AP, you are working towards those AP tests. So it's good to understand why analysis training is such a big part of this. So the first thing that we want to know is if you have a document-based question, a DBQ, on one of those standardized AP tests, that is 1 hour timed to do it. 15 minutes is for reading, 45 minutes is for writing. And then kind of like diagonal from one, we have 7 that gives us more information about that. On a DBQ, students are given 7 primary sources or 7 pieces of data if you are in one of the STEM classes that they have to read in 15 minutes and then 45 minutes to write about it. Many AP tests have 2 of these, both a DBQ and an FRQ. Since an AP test is 3 hours long, if you have 2 of these sort of writing tasks in it, that is more than half of your time. We all know that if we're going for, these kind of classes, we want to get the higher score. We want to get a 5 on an AP test. And another really important thing to recognize is there are more than 30, the vast majority of AP tests include these written sections. So, like, are there any of these, we're going by the numbers here, Catherine, are there any of these that you really want to key everybody in on to like pay attention to and really help, the students that they're here to support today?
Yeah, the main thing that I want to emphasize when looking at this is that time is so important to be fully utilized.
Mhm.
They give 3 hours, not because the students should be finished in an hour and then sit there for 2 hours. They give 3 hours because the students should be analyzing and working with their materials the entire time.
Mhm.
Or calculus specifically, Rachel, you mentioned it, that everything needs an explanation. So we will practice looking at the AP rubric and working backwards backwards of what does your answer need to have in it. You have to state, my answer is this because I used this rule in calculus. And if you don't have that, you're not getting full points. It's an
Yeah.
easy thing to overlook if you just look at the AP rubric the day before, but
Yeah.
those 3 hours have to be planned out and practiced ahead of time in order to get the most points.
Absolutely. So when you're supporting students in our sessions, how do you help them with the time management issues that are such a big part of analysis training?
What I specifically love about AP classes or is that AP classroom, that apclassroomboard.com, that
Mhm.
has everything standardized. So no matter the student's teacher, I can access all the things that they're doing in class, all the things that they're going to be asked, and the rubric. So our main way that we structure the timed, we practice under pressure. They work with a question under the same amount of time that they would have in class. But then we actually will go through scoring them according to their answer. And I won't say anything along the way, like, oh, don't forget this. I'll let
Yeah.
them perform for me. And then we'll look back and see, like, hey, how did you fit the rubric? Let's practice again and include these few things that you forgot off. A couple of my students have that anxiety when it comes to time testing. And
Mhm.
although they know things that they should do, they forget it because they're worried about the time. And then, no, practicing under pressure, that's going
Yeah.
to make that performance as close to the rubric as possible. I
Yeah.
have a couple of students that when they're knowing they're timed, they forget some of the things that we'll cover in class or cover in sessions. And so
Mhm.
the way to get around that is lots of practice and then match it to the rubric.
Yeah, that is such a powerful strategy that anybody can replicate at home. So that would just take you would have something to practice on. You could use old homeworks. You could use something that maybe the teacher has provided, like a study packet or something like that. Because I know too, we have some folks here that have kids in IB classes. They also have timed assessments. Because I have kids in my sessions that are in IB programs. So having a study plan that replicates what they are going to encounter, whether they are in honors, AP, or IB, that is such a great way to get them, like highly trained athletes in this analysis training focus. So we want to talk about our third strategy for our students, which is to support sustained skills. And this is something that we do a ton of in our sessions. We are supporting the skills that are going to get them through these classes. So kids in honors classes and AP classes, they have college level assignments. So I'm going to draw from my background. My joke is I sometimes think that the AP Lit classes are based on a series of escalating dares. Because in the curriculum that you're just covering in the school, it's going to be about 12 assigned works of literature. So this could be like a couple, like when I've taught it before, several plays by Shakespeare, not just one, a bunch. And then the kinds of novels where when you're done reading it, you could use it to tap some nails into wood and build a house. So you have to read those, and then you have a recommended reading list of more than 50 other titles. Being able to sustain your skills and your attention in these AP and honors classes is paramount because we all have preferences and we all have ways that we like to work. If we are finding that the way the class is set up is not really meshing with the way that we learn best, it can cause a lot of disconnect. So, in your experience as an educator, Katherine, like how do you support students in your sessions to build sustained skills?
In the sciences, the amount of reading that is required to get all of your notes in is astronomical. It really is closer to that college level of you're doing an hour or two of just reading every day. Classes might have a little bit of practice. Um, But the reading and the 100 to 150 pages of reading that they're going to be completing every week take
Hmm.
time, takes a lot of time from the students' schedule, and it has to be done along the way because I don't know a student that likes to read 500 pages at the end of the month. Rachel, do you?
No,
Yeah.
no,
So
nobody
we
does.
tackle it along the way. We take notes along the way, and it's manageable.
Hmm.
And we get them into the habit early.
Yeah. This is also something to really consider. One of the things that I often encounter with students that are taking like multiple AP classes in my sessions is that the demands of all of the classes can really clash with building sustained skills. So if you're taking 4 or 5 AP classes and you have 2 to 3 hours of reading for each one of those, and then you also have other things that you're doing in high school. You have sports, you have, you're in the play, you're in the band, you have an after school job. It becomes very difficult to get all of the work done, which is much different when you're in college. I have students that I started working with when they were in honors and AP classes who have now transitioned to college, and they all say the same thing. It's so much easier. And that's because if you think about it in college, you have a class maybe up to 3 times a week, and you have more room in your schedule. Where when you are in high school, you're in class every single day, and you don't have time in the day to do things. Everything is happening after 3 p.m. And for some kids who are really involved, they only have a few hours where they have to squeeze every darn thing into. So, do you have any like suggestions, Catherine, for managing the workload? Because that also seems to be a thing here with sustained skills. So, one of the things I'm gonna tackle this one from my area, which is literature, and this is something that Catherine touched on earlier: the need to work on things right along. So one of the big things that I always talk to students about, especially in literature, is that books have chapters for a reason, because we're not meant to read like a 500-page novel all in one go. This also, another way that you can combine strategies is to have good note-taking habits that go along with the daily work. A simple like regimen of maybe reading 10 or 15 pages and then jotting down some notes, maybe 4 to 7 sentences in a paragraph or key bulleted points, can really help develop those good strategies for sustaining skills. So, Catherine, do you have any other strategies for like sustaining skills for students?
Yeah, I always in the sciences like to keep their reading and their practice separate so
Yeah.
that figure out what's going well and what's not. Reading a ton and then practicing the skills from the science, those are two different things. You're reading about theories and concepts and you're practicing skills. So I
Yeah.
will set up a schedule that separates those so we know, is it the theory or the conceptual stuff that you're getting hung up on, or is it the skills of conversions and dimensional analysis? That's going to change what we're going to tackle and how.
That's awesome. I mean, and that's something too that folks could set up on their own. Just like you can replicate the timed scenario for testing, you can definitely look through the work and separate things out. So we're going to get to question and answer. And I mean, right now, maybe take a second, put some questions in the chat, because we do have time to get to, as many people as we can. But I do want to thank everybody for such a great week. This is our fourth and final day of Fall into Focus. As soon as this webinar is over, a pop-up is going to come up on your screen for a survey. We would love to have your answers to this survey. It is 3 quick questions that helps us tailor topics to your interest, and it gives us powerful feedback that we use to make all of our webinars better for every person who comes to talk with us. So we have been talking a ton about our sessions. Catherine and I have been sharing so many examples from our sessions. And so we want to tell you a little bit about virtual executive function coaching with educational connections. Our sessions are all tailored to the needs of every single student. So this is not like more school after school. This is a way to supercharge those practices to get a student to work within their work from that day, from that week, to practice the types of skills that we are talking about. We can practice note taking, we can practice, test strategies, we can practice strategies for sustaining those skills and getting through all that reading. Catherine, would you talk with us about the ways that like our pattern, like our 4 or 5 steps for our sessions?
Of course, one of the things I love about my job is that no student gets the same session. We will meet with the parents. We're kind of going to get a background from the parents, and we're going to meet with the students and get their version of what they're doing well in, what they need help in. And then when we meet virtually, we're going to create a plan that fits what they're open to working on and what they need to do in order to be successful in their classes. So our sessions will sometimes look like completing work so that it gets off their to-do list. Sometimes we'll plan out the week. Sometimes we'll strategize projects and essays in the future. Sometimes we will tag team the parents and say, hey, I have my student all the way up until the conclusion. They need to do the conclusion by Friday. Can you sit down and work on the conclusion with them? And then we will adjust what we're doing in the sessions based on what we're seeing happening in the class as we check in with the students.
Yeah. Our sessions are really focused on reflecting and monitoring what's going on in the week. We check tests, we check assignments, we check grades, we make plans for success. We always have time where we are focusing on student work. We can work collaboratively. Students can learn a new skill or a new practice and then practice it right there in the session and get feedback and support. And then we always reflect on what is working. Hey, we need to take a pause here. We need to reframe and reset. If any of this is resonating with you, we would love to have a call with you. You can scan the QR code. There will be a link in the chat, and you can schedule a call with one of our program managers. They are going to help you with every aspect of this process. All of our coaches at Educational Connections, I think like you've learned, like I'm a humanities person, Catherine is a STEM person. If you want to work with a coach that has a specific type of background and can help with those key executive function skills, our program managers are going to pair your favorite learner with a coach that is going to absolutely be able to support all of their needs. So it's like it's so magical because students really benefit from that one-on-one support, and this is a great way to give it to them. So we have some fantastic questions in the chat. I am hoping that as we start to answer these, other people are like, well, I have a fantastic question too. So our first one, this is specifically about finding audible links for push reading. Okay, so I'm as a humanities person and somebody that works with a lot of kids who are taking push. Um, Audible is like a Barnes and Noble, but for audiobooks. So anything you can buy in Barnes and Noble, you can buy on Audible. But you're not always going to find some of the texts that you are encountering in APUSH. There's going to be a lot of like philosophical texts, like primary documents from American history. However, there is one recommendation I do have for this. It's a product. It's a like an app. And it's also web-based. It's called Speechify. And if you Google it, it'll come up. Speechify, this is a paid app. I have used it in my classroom since the second it came out. It will turn anything into an audiobook. So if you have the thing and you can scan it, and it can recognize the text, you can turn it into an audiobook. I absolutely love it. I use it with a lot of my students who have all different sorts of reading to do. I have a student in college who's taking a medieval history class and will scan pages of the book to listen to as she walks between classes as like a review, and then like she'll sit down with the book later. Speechify it's like a game changer as far as audiobooks go. Okay, so I'm taking that one because that's the humanities one, Catherine. I'm sorry, but that one was all mine. Okay, so our next question says, I have a middle schooler. We're looking ahead into high school. Do you have any recs on how to balance advanced AP classes with a healthy workload? Should kids take as many AP classes as they can? Is there a benefit to that? Or should they kind of pick the subjects where they want to focus long term? What do you think, Catherine?
Great question. I actually had to counsel a student about this exact problem last year. So she is capable in her AP classes. She's rocking and rolling, but she had it in her brain that she wanted to do 5 for the next year. So the
Yeah.
parents came, we went over, hey, how are the sessions going? And I looked at her workload for the next year and tried to analyze if it was going to be smart. Could she have done it content wise? Yes. But
Hmm.
one thing that she was passionate about was band. And if we have any band people in here, it takes up a lot of time. And I was like, with 5 classes, she cannot do band. And based on what I'm getting from the sessions and how well she's doing, this is the time to do her band. Like she should keep up with it and pick a few of her favorite classes. And she ended up compromising on 3 AP classes and band. She is fully maxed out, but she's thriving. There are
Yeah.
some students that can take 5, but they just have so much less time. So if there's sports or if there's clubs or if there's extracurriculars, um, anytime I've had a student that does sports in AP, we schedule him out, Rachel, until usually about 10 or 11, 7 days a week. He is
Yeah.
up doing essays, college items, or preparing for the next week till 10 or 11 at night every night. And he didn't get to let up all year. He did it and he did great, but it's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I have similar experience. I had a student one year who took 9 that signed up that the school had 8 classes. The student signed up for 8 APs and then signed up behind the family's back to take number 9 online. It did not go well. There are not enough hours in the day. My personal recommendation, as somebody who has taught at the college level, at the high school level, at the middle school level, do one, see how it goes. Then, okay, that one, like, maybe like the first time you can take it is 10th grade, take one in 10th grade. Maybe two in 11th grade. And then if you're feeling ambitious, maybe 3 in 12th grade. The other thing with AP classes that I am going to say as an educator that has worked in this a long time is the tests are also in any given Sunday situation. So I'm going to speak about the test in literature. Like I told you before, that the kids are going to read probably 12 books, and then you get a list of 50. Well, when you read those 12 books, there's no guarantee they're going to be on the test because the list for AP Lit alone is like, go to Barnes and Noble and see how many are in classics. Go to Barnes and Noble and see how many are in like the Lit Fic section. The list for that test is sometimes thousands of books, and the test is just grabbing things at random. So there is a probability that you have a kid who is so good at different things, and then you get to the test and it's just like, it's a complete awful situation. They beef it for no good reason. I have had some of my brightest students just have a bad test day for these AP tests. So these are other things to consider. Another thing that I will say too, and I'm sure Catherine's going to have some feedback about this, is think about dual enrollment classes. Dual enrollment is where the kid is in high school but is getting college credit. That to me is sometimes the magic bullet because sometimes kids are able to go off of their high school campus and really experience a professor. What do you think about that idea, Catherine?
Oh my gosh. Rachel, you know this about me. That's what I worth of college credits. But the students I help in Virginia right now, they have a dual enrollment option, and you guarantee the credits to transfer.
So when you take a dual
It's
enrollment class, you can transfer the credits, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And AP ones transfer a lot, but I have seen some students that the credit doesn't transfer. They have to take
Yeah.
it. It is still a great prep for your college, even if it's not accepted, because I tend to find students score great in the college classes, but
Mhm.
it's not guaranteed to be accepted.
Yeah, I had experiences. I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm in like the Pittsburgh area. We had dual enrollment through a university in our area called Seton Hill. I had kids that went to Notre Dame. I had kids that were getting into Ivy Leagues. All those Seton Hill credits transferred. I had some of those same kids where their AP scores didn't. This is something. It's a complex puzzle, and it's great to ask these kind of questions because you can start to figure out how the pieces fit best together for your family. So we have a cluster of questions that are asking about accommodations for AP tests. So is it possible to get accommodations if a student doesn't have accommodations in school? What about the timed thing where, my particular learner finds like a time test very daunting? What do you think about that, Catherine?
Yeah, you can actually directly apply for accommodations from the AP College Board website. It can be in conjunction with your school. You can request it directly from the AP site themselves. But with the timing, some parents and some students are going to benefit from more, and some are going to benefit from breaks. Both of those options exist where you can take the test in parts, get up, and move around during that time. There's a lot of options to accommodate your students similarly to how they would take their normal tests, but I would recommend starting that process early. You can do
Yeah.
it with or without your school.
Yeah, that's wonderful that you can do it with the school. You can also like get accommodations through the college board. This is another thing where it's like there's I'll tell you what, for the kids and for the parents, there is a lot of work in AP classes. There's a lot. Okay, so we have oh, this is a fantastic question. And also I'm looking at the time here. I don't know about you, Catherine, but like I would answer some more questions. Like I can stick around till like 1 at the very latest. I don't know what your schedule's like.
Yeah, I was really excited. I cleared it a little bit for this. So I'm free as well till 1.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we're gonna get through maybe we can get through all of them. Okay, so Mandy asks, can you describe the differences between honors and AP classes? How are they similar and how are they different?
For honors classes, you're going to up the rigor a little bit. You'll have deeper questions, a little bit more reading. A lot of times the teachers are going to take that opportunity to be stricter with their grading. So the expectations are going to be a little bit higher, quicker turnaround for assignments. But AP is regulated by a national expectation.
Yeah.
So those questions, the tests, the resources that they're used, it's all aligned from the beginning, and you're going to get that same experience anywhere. So the rubric that your student is compare or graded against is an established rubric, whereas honors, it's the teacher kind of formulating how can we push this student, but it's an individual decision.
Yeah. In my honors lit room, what I would do is I would get the AP tests, and sometimes I would find questions that applied to specific works of literature that we were going over. So I would go through old AP tests, and I would be like, okay, do we have any questions about Romeo and Juliet on here? And so I would start to use those to help students get acclimated to the types of questions that they could encounter on the AP test. And I would also organize my assessments so that they were getting those types of questions. Um, and the other thing like that I would do is I would make sure to see what sort of reading they were going to have to do independently by the time they got to AP, and then I would increase that rigor. So I would see, for example, that when they would take an AP class, they would have to read all of this stuff independently. In my honors class, I am giving them portions of reading to start doing things independently. So Emily has a question. Are there notebooks for purchase that scaffold the Cornell Notes method? Okay, Emily, I'm gonna take this one and I'm gonna be talking directly to you and directly to everybody else, okay? Because I'm a little bit of a curmudgeon, okay? Any of that stuff is just taking your money. Cornell Notes were started by a gentleman who noticed that the students at Cornell University did not know how to do anything and that they were college kids, so they didn't have a lot of money. Cornell Notes are supposed to be you have a piece of paper, you have a pencil, you can draw the stuff on the paper. My big suggestion is if you want to get anything that is like pre-structured, there are so many things online. If you Google like free Cornell Notes PDF printable, you can get a template. You can get one you can put in Google Docs. You can get one that you can print out on your little printer if you want to make something that's more structured. Those kind of notebooks, they look great in theory. And my goodness, do the folks on, Amazon.com make them look like they're going to clear your skin, fix your notes. You're going to get the best grades. The tooth fairy will just start leaving you money for no good reason. But I'm a curmudgeon. I just think that you need the skill. And one of the great things about the Cornell Notes skill is that you can learn how to organize your paper. So it also teaches something so valuable to a kid that's going to use them. Okay, and Emily, I see that you have in the chat, like, you knew I was talking right right to you. Okay, so Naomi asks, regarding applying for the AP board for accommodations without any at school, any strategies that you can suggest to help make the case for accommodations like more time? Okay, so I'm going to start this one. And I think, Catherine, you can piggyback off of this. This is something where okay, so Catherine and I are both working with students that are in AP classes and we've taught them before. This is something where this is going to have to happen in your community. You know what I mean? This is going to be best served through your school, through the college board. Do you have any suggestions for this one though, Catherine?
When you apply for it or when you start that process, um, deciding to or not to engage the school is one thing, but they have a coordinator that would be super familiar with it. So I would at least start by
Awesome.
like asking them the questions. But the college board side also has coordinators, and it requires the same type of paperwork that you would need for the school, as far as like supporting documentation. So it is a on your own venture for the college board itself, but um, I always like to tell parents it's the same thing that would happen if you went to college. You have to contact a lot of different people in college to get
Yeah.
accommodations. It's like sometimes pretty scary how hard it is to navigate that pipeline because high school makes it a little bit easier.
Mhm.
So going on your own and asking for these accommodations, they do have coordinators, but it's a very similar process to high
Yeah.
school with the documentation and stuff. But there are deadlines.
That's wonderful insight. Do you offer service to help on the AP English test? So at Educational Connections, we have coaches that are educational experts in all sorts of different areas. So if you want support specifically for like literature, and then you also want executive function coaching, we can, help to pair you with somebody. So I think like, do we have any like maybe last questions? Because I feel like we've actually like answered everybody, which is such a gift. Okay, so I want to thank everybody who joined us today. As you are leaving the session, remember that survey is going to pop up. Please, please, please answer those 3 quick questions. The feedback helps us immensely. We want to provide more webinars that we can give you all these great supports and tips. Thank you for everything today. For folks who have been here all week, thanks for being here all week. For folks who joined today, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Rachel.